I parked my car in the parking lot and entered the building where I worked. I smiled at the receptionist as I passed him to the elevator, pressing the button for my floor as I got in. Reaching my floor, I got out and headed towards my desk, stopping to chat with a few colleagues along the way. Once I was at my desk, I took off my coat, put my handbag down, smoothed my skirt, and then sat down. I then booted up my computer, and as I waited for it to start up, I checked to make sure that my desk was tidy. I pulled out a compact from my handbag and quickly checked my makeup. Putting the compact back in my bag, I then logged into the computer. By the time I had logged in and started checking my emails, my boss had arrived. "Morning, Andy," she said as she approached my desk. "Good morning, Carol," I chirped back, smiling as I did so. "Wow. Someone's in a good mood today," Carol noted. "What's the occasion?" she asked. "Sarah and I are celebrating our 20th anniversary today," I replied. "Congratulations," Carol said, smiling. "Thank you," I replied. "Sarah's taking me out for a meal tonight. I can't wait." "I hope Sarah knows that she's lucky to have you as her husband, Andy," Carol said. "I'm pretty sure she does, Carol," I replied, still smiling. "Right, enough chit-chat. Let's get to work. I'll have my usual coffee." "Yes, ma'am," I replied as she headed into her office. I got up from my desk and headed over to the kettle. Carol and I have a good relationship, enough that we are on first-name basis when we are alone. However, when work needs to be done, we are very professional. As Carol's secretary, I handle all of her phone calls, emails, that sort of thing. I'm very good at my job. In fact, I don't think that she could cope without me. I started pouring the coffee, and I poured a cup for myself. Heading back to my desk, I placed my cup on it and then approached Carol's door. I knocked. "Come in." I opened the door and entered. "Ah, excellent, Andy, thank you." I placed the cup on her desk. "Is there anything else you need, ma'am?" I asked, waiting patiently. Yes. Can you get me the file for the Wellswood account? I need to be prepared for the meeting this afternoon." "Of course, ma'am," I replied, and I exited the office and went to get the file. "Here you are, ma'am," I said as I returned and placed the file on her desk. "Thank you, Andy. I'll call you if I need anything else." "Yes, ma'am," I replied and headed back to my desk. I spent the rest of the morning replying to emails and answering phone calls. At about 12 o'clock, I knocked on Carol's door and poked my head in. "I'm going for my lunch break now." "Is that okay, ma'am?" I asked. "Yes, that's fine, Andy. Could you bring me a tuna baguette while you're out?" She responded. "Yes, of course," I replied, and I headed out of the office. I stopped at the local sandwich bar, which was my favorite place for lunch. I ordered Mrs. Madison her lunch, and I purchased a Caesar salad for myself. It was a little cold out, but not too unpleasant, so I took my lunch to the park and ate it while sitting on one of the benches. After lunch, I headed back to the office and handed my boss her lunch and then got back to work. At 2 o'clock, my boss had her meeting with the representatives from the Wellswood Company. I sat in the corner of the meeting room taking notes and occasionally getting up to take drink orders. After the meeting, I started to type the notes up on my computer. Finally, at 5 o'clock, it was time to leave. I said goodbye to my boss and left. On the drive home, I thought back to when Sarah had first proposed to me. She had taken me to a very posh restaurant and we had champagne. I remember drinking my glass and then seeing at the bottom of the glass a ring. I had been so surprised. Sarah had then took the ring out of the glass and got down on one knee and asked me to marry her. I, of course, had said yes. It was so romantic. I smiled happily at the memories. Arriving home, I got out of my car and entered the house. I was greeted by the sound of little feet rushing, followed by a loud daddy, as my 5-year-old son Henry greeted me with a big hug. Smiling, I returned the hug. "Hello, sweetheart," I said. "Did you have a good day at school?" I asked, coming out of the hug. "Yes, Daddy, I did," Henry said, smiling. He looked so cute with his blonde hair tied into 2 pigtails and his pink dress. He had white knee-high socks and was wearing black Mary Janes. "Good," I replied. "Now you know that Daddy and Mommy are going out tonight, don't you?" I asked. "Yes, Daddy." "To celebrate your Annie," Henry said, struggling to say the word. "Anniversary, sweetie," I said, helping him. "So we will be gone for the evening. But don't worry. Your big sister will be here to look after you." "Where is she?" "She's in her room playing one of her games," Henry replied. "Okay. I'll talk to her. Why don't you go and play with one of your dolls?" I suggested. "Okay," he replied and rushed off to his room. I put my handbag down and took off my shoes and coat. I then headed up to my daughter's room. I knocked on the door and asked, "Honey, can I come in?" "Yeah, sure," came Libby's reply. I entered the room and looked around in disgust. Her room was like any other teenage girl's, posters of movies and sports athletes hanging up on the wall, there were clothes lying all around on the floor, and her bed wasn't made. "I just wanted to talk about tonight," I announced. Libby paused her game and turned to look at me. "So as you know, your mother and I are going out tonight." Libby nodded to show her understanding. "I know you plan on playing your games tonight. But I want you to look after your brother." Libby groaned at this but replied, "Okay, Dad." "Good. Now I've left a couple of ready meals for you so that you can get dinner ready whenever you want. Oh, and remember, Henry's bedtime is 8 p.m., so make sure he goes to bed on time." "Okay, sure, Dad," Libby acknowledged. "Thank you, honey." "Oh, and would you mind cleaning this room up?" I asked. "Because it looks like a bomb has hit it." Libby groaned but started to pick up the clothes. Leaving Libby's room, I headed into my bedroom and started to get ready. I picked out the dress that I was going to wear and laid it out on the bed. I then picked out a matching bra and panties and laid them on the bed as well. I entered the bathroom. I then turned on the shower and stepped out of my work clothes and put them in the hamper. I then stepped in the shower. After my shower, I got out and wrapped a white fluffy towel around my chest and then another one around my long blonde hair. "Ah, honey, there you are," my wife said as I exited the bathroom. I smiled and greeted Sarah as she pulled me into a quick kiss. "Looking forward to tonight?" Sarah asked me. "Yeah, I am. I can't wait to see where we are going," I replied, looking deeply into her eyes, while as I said, "It's a surprise." She winked at me and then gently slapped my butt as she went to have a shower. I giggled and then proceeded to get ready. First, I took off my towel and replaced it with my bra and panties. I then took off the towel on my head and sat down at my vanity table to do my makeup. After doing my makeup and styling my hair, which I had put into a neat bun, I then slipped into my dress. The dress that I had chosen was a long green mermaid dress which fell down to the floor. It was sleeveless and had a strap going across my left shoulder. I stood in front of the mirror admiring my reflection. Shortly after, Sarah came out of the bathroom dressed in a white dress shirt with black trousers and black socks. "Wow, honey! You look amazing," she said after seeing me. I blushed. "Ah, thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty dashing yourself," I remarked. Sarah grabbed a matching black jacket out of her side of the wardrobe and then put it on. She then grabbed a tie and started to tie it around her neck. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "Hold on," I replied. I reached out and straightened her tie and then quickly sprayed on some perfume. Giving myself one last look in the mirror, I picked up my matching shawl and purse, stepped into my heels and said, "Okay. Now I'm ready." Sarah smiled and offered me her hand. We then headed downstairs. Both kids were in the living room watching TV and had already eaten when we got down. "Okay, kids. We're going now," I said as we entered the room. Henry got off the sofa and gave me another hug. "Wow, Daddy. You look beautiful," he said, smiling happily up at me. "Aw, thank you, sweetheart," I replied. Turning to Libby, I said, "Now, Libby, remember what I told you about Henry's bedtime?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Don't worry, Dad, I've got it." She replied, not looking away from the TV, "Okay." I said, uncertain, "You've got our numbers if anything goes wrong, haven't you?" "Dad." I said, "Don't worry," Libby replied, exasperated. "You two go and have fun." "Come on, honey," Sarah said, putting her arm around my waist and leading me towards the front door. "The kids will be fine." "I suppose you're right," I said. I just couldn't help worrying about my children. All fathers do, I guess. As we left the house, I said, "Bye, kids." I got a reply of "Bye, Dad," as we shut the door. Sarah opened the car door for me and I slipped into the seat. Sarah then got in the driver's side and pulled off the drive. I still had no idea where we were going, but as we got closer to our destination, I started to recognize certain buildings. "Hold on," I said. "I think I know where we're going," I said, smiling at Sarah. Sarah just nodded and smiled back. Sarah pulled the car into the car park and we got out. I was right. This was the very restaurant that Sarah had proposed to me 20 years ago. "Oh my gosh, Sarah! This is wonderful," I said as I pulled her into a hug and gave her a passionate kiss. We headed into the restaurant and the waitress took us to our table. We ordered champagne and then when the waitress came back with, she opened the bottle and poured us each a glass. We toasted each other and Sarah said, "Happy anniversary, love." I smiled at her and replied, "Happy anniversary." We chinked our glass and drank our champagne. We were the happiest couple in the world.